I was born and raised on the east side of San Antonio, where "What's up" was as common a greeting as "Que pasa?" Songs such as "What's Going On" by Marvin Gaye could be heard mingling with corridos like La Chareada by Linda Ronstadt. Though San Antonio was spared many of the hateful effects of Jim Crow, life was far from the American dream for African Americans. My mother did her best to educate my siblings and I about the realities of the world outside our home. She made sure that we understood the importance of being educated. She would admonish my brother and I in particular concerning the necessity and the danger of being an educated black man in America. At the time, I couldn't appreciate her words of wisdom. It wasn't until later in life that I would come to understand their magnitude. The zeal for education runs deep in my family. My grandmother and grandfather were both educators during a time when blacks struggled for equality. To better understand, I traveled back home to sit and talk to one of my mother's remaining siblings, Aunt Hope. Aunt Hope came of age during the Civil Rights era, and during my visit, she recalls what it was like for her growing up.
It was like for me growing up in the considering all of the South, the Deep South, in such a disarray with the climate of social injustices, the civil rights movement. We really didn't suffer a lot of that. We were always, in a sense, knowing our place. We knew our place, but we didn't suffer a lot of the discrimination that I would say happened in the Deep South. We were aware, but we really didn't suffer it. We had a pretty good life in it.
Though racism and bigotry may not have been as overt in Texas as, say, Mississippi or Arkansas, the Lone Star State was not without its share of antithetical views concerning racial equality. Still, my family forged ahead. Men like my great-grandfather, Memphis Crawford, actually thrived despite the racial climate of the day. However, by the late 70s, things began to change for African Americans in San Antonio.
At or around the late 1970s, approaching the 1980s, is when we came to the realization that we were actually in a predominantly Hispanic town. And somewhere in and around the mid-80s, we got a new mayor. And I believe he was the first Hispanic mayor to get the job. And that was Henry Cisneros. Henry Cisneros was a good man, but his focus was to elevate his people. And he did that. He did it in a very elegant way, but all of a sudden, blacks started losing businesses. And I don't know if it was due to the fact that when he began to build up locations for his people, it took money away from the area where the blacks were. As he began to build up the Hispanic people, it put them on a much higher plateau for jobs. All of a sudden, the job description was bilingual. Once the bilingual description came into play, we began to lose jobs by the hundreds. We were in every bank. We were in every industry that was here before then. And then the bilingual changed it. that description for a job description changed it. Even though we were in a Hispanic town, most blacks didn't speak Spanish. So there was no reason to go and try to get the job, knowing that it was calling for a bilingual person. That took over. And by the late 80s, there was no more black business that we had seen. That was all gone. I think to this day, a barber shop still stands where it was back in the early 70s when we first came. All the other businesses are gone. And it has never gone back. There's never been a shift back. There's never been a balance back to, per se, all people. It has stayed and has continued to develop more and more as a Hispanic.
I stand on the shoulders of men who fought for me to have the right to have an education. I am determined to shatter every stereotype, prove every negative statistic false, and forge my own path. For me, the lack of opportunities for African Americans in San Antonio has cultivated a deep, burning determination to experience life more than what San Antonio has to offer. Not just for myself, but for the generation of men who are coming after me. I arrived at Houston Tillotson University on a nightmare praying for the dream. I spent years praying for the opportunity to complete an education I'd fumbled 10 years earlier. In 2012, that dream was fulfilled. Shortly after my arrival, however, I suffered the loss of both my parents. As I think back over these last 5 years, I am convinced that had it not been for the support of my family, administrators, instructors, and students, I could not have made it through such a difficult time. Each day, I am surrounded by African American men who come from families where there was not a culture of education. I find myself admonishing them as my mother did me, and I tell them, take advantage of this opportunity. Don't take it lightly. Recognize the weight of the moment and ride it for everything it's worth.